Welcome back to Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is I already did it, the Late Night Show podcast for the website, zbluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Hey, listen, I thought it'd be great. I don't have anything prepared. If I just did the monologue, I got 12 things, 12 topics. So it's my Christmas gift to you. It's like when Michael Che and Colin Jost trade jokes on Weekend Update. Also, you ever notice how I'm pretending like I didn't just record an intro? Stop it and then restart recording. So this is all just for me and the ghosts. You ever notice how the audience claps more for Colin Jost at the beginning there? Where he goes, I'm Michael Che, I'm Colin Jost. They start clapping immediately. They go, like, they're really into Colin Jost. I watch a lot of SNL. Old stuff, too. And there's a lot of clapping for Colin Jost. You know, vanilla's a flavor. All right, let's move on. Let's go on to this monologue. A 17-year-old law clerk passes the California bar exam, and unfortunately, wouldn't you know it, still didn't get him a date to prom. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let's see. The special counsel in one of the Trump trials is going to use President Trump's phone data at the trial, including texts and drafts of tweets. As unhinged as his regular tweets were, the Truth Social posts are, I can't imagine what a draft of the tweet. This man sits down and he's like, "This isn't good enough. I'll save this one for Tuesday." Like he's like one of these content creators getting ready to post something. The only time I'll willingly use that word, content. A former Mar-a-Lago employee who is now a witness in one of the Trump trials has been contacted excessively by Trump and his associates before the documents charges cases. And now, what does being contacted by them entail? Is it Trump and his people saying that they're willing to defend them, or saying that he was a good employee? You're a good employee, behind. I remember you. You were such a nice person to me. You helped me hide those papers. Like, imagine going to trial. You, first of all, imagine working for that guy. And then doing what he says. And then flipping on him. And now going to trial just to save your hide. There's no joke there. I'm just going there. Rudy Giuliani is being this. Remember, this is from last week. The defamation trial began in in Washington, rather, for the Georgia poll workers defamation trial, where Rudy Giuliani was saying that these two women were hiding votes and stealing them. The women were seeking $43 million, and can you believe that there's a guy with no teeth and the longest shorts in the world that are technically pants at this point. Do you think that guy has $43 million? I mean, if anything, if he did, why is it not going to his hair? Maybe it is just all that it's a liquid gold. All that oil is dripping off from his hair. Tucker Carlson is said to be starting his own streaming service. And it's just called No Girls Allowed, with a bow tie like that. Oh, an Ohio attorney was fired for pooping in a can of Pringles and throwing it from his car, which he called it a prank. And it's been estimated that he does this at least 10 times a year. And you know what? It's still funnier than anything Mr. Beast does. No, he's funny. I should have said Jake Paul. That'd have been funnier. I like Mr. Beast. I don't subscribe, but when I see it pop up, I go, let me give it a click. Subway announces foot-long chocolate chip cookie. And this one is actually made of real tuna. I actually wrote that one. That's a good one. Unfortunately, I have another tagline for that one. Subway announces a foot-long chocolate chip cookie, and that tuna sandwich did not look like that going in. Trump is selling pieces of his suit that he wore to his mugshot. Speaking of desperate times, I mean, he needs to give some of that money here and back to Rudy Giuliani. Speaking of Trump, Trump is barred from the Colorado ballot, from the Colorado presidential ballot for the 2024 election because of the insurrection, inciting the insurrection. And you know what? I think that is why Colorado legalized weed. They sobered up. They came to the senses and said, this is what we need to do. Not a joke there. Ramaswamy is taking his name off the Colorado ballot in solidarity, which he had no chance of even being voted there in the first place. I mean, truly, he must be high himself if he thinks that was going to happen. And Rudy Giuliani now files for bankruptcy after the court says he has to pay the women in the election worker case $148 million. Now, I believe that is higher than the $43 million that was initially said that he had to pay. Rudy filing for bankruptcy at this time, is bankruptcy protection rather, is a smart move for him, dumb move for him because he has to pay them immediately. That's what the court said. Now he's trying to say that he's the poorest man in the world, and he was hawking pills, supplements in order to make this money. I can't believe he used to be the mayor of New York. He's lower than Pizza Rat. And finally, California is testing turning toilet tank water into drinking water. I mean, isn't that already what they do in, let me name a city that people hate, San Diego? Isn't that what they do in Calabasas? That was a monologue. It wasn't written, I know. All right, listen, let's get in with this. I just checked the battery of the iPad to the 22%. Again, this is the last 2 weeks. Kal Penn hosted The Daily Show. He's the last one coming up on next year, which I assume we're going to have a host in January or February. They'll have an announcement. Stephen Colbert tells a story of his bursted appendix. Let me mute the computer. He was off for a couple of weeks, COVID, and then he for COVID, and then he burst his appendix. His appendix was bursting. It's a great story. I think you should check it out. It's one of the times he feels very genuine and not like he's forced to talk to his black band leader. Kal Penn then sits down with Indian American voters to talk about which candidate they trust most. And there's some people there that have some crazy ideas, I'll tell you that much. Jon Hamm talked about his experience going to the Sphere in Vegas. And you know what? He's a fan of you too. And also, this guy, Jon Hamm, I love him. I love him to death. He's such a look. He's just such a handsome guy. On top of his beauty, he's a good actor. He's very funny. Dua Lipa and Seth Meyers went day drinking, and it was so great. And you know, there was a point when I was watching this segment. It's 16 minutes long. There's a point when I was watching it when I just thought, his poor wife and children. And then he said that at that point in the segment, he was like, "Kids, Daddy's coming home," which I thought was fun. Carmelo Anthony and the Kid Mero came to late night to discuss their new podcast, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. And I love the Kid Mero so much, and I think Carmelo's a great basketball player. I don't know about his personality, but I think but if you've watched the podcast or listened to it rather, you can watch it too. But if you listen to it, it is an unlikely duo. I mean, Carmelo's got a lot of good analysis about basketball as a player, and Mero's got a lot of good analysis as a fan. And also Mero's just a funny person, so it's nice to see a very like mellow, and like a very high strung Kid Mero talking about sports. Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen stopped by to talk about the New Year's Eve CNN show That's always good. I don't know what I was trying to say. Amy Poehler was a last minute guest on Late Night. They talked about it, and you know what? Seth and Amy are just such good friends that it does not even matter. She can come by anytime. And Fred Armisen came by Late Night, and he sat in with the band, and they did improvised things, and it was fantastic. Now, I do want to get to this. This comes from Deadline, written by Peter White. What the hell will happen in Late Night in 2024? As we know, Late Night is changing. Broadcast is struggling for viewers. All the views really that matter now come from YouTube, from online, from TikTok, Twitter, all this stuff. Twitter, from TikTok and YouTube and everything in between. And even when listening to the during the last part of the strike, the writer's strike, even listening to Strike Force 5 and talking and with all those hosts talking about, Late Night and their ambitions and stuff, it seemed like things were kind of I feel like they're all over the place, because there was a point where ratings really mattered. And right now, ratings kind of don't. I still get emails from trades talking about how Fallon won, the 18 to 49 demographic, or Kimmel's been good, or, whatever. We're having a game show come in at midnight, a redux of that show that's coming in and replacing the Late Late Show. We've got two Paramount hosts step down, James Corden and Trevor Noah. Or Paramount, Viacom, whatever, TBS, who cares? Which, for the Daily Show, that led to that show being up in the air as much as possible. We've had Roy Wood Jr. leave. Then they hire two queer people. It's great. Did they hire 3 people? They hired 2 people. Yeah, The Daily Show. 2 correspondents. And now we have rotating guest hosts, which works sometimes, and there's other times. It's been a long time since it hasn't worked. I'll tell you that much. 80 Miles returned to The Tonight Show as the head writer, and they lost the other person left. That was in October. Last Week Tonight's renewed at HBO through 2026. Who is this? Sorry, I just got a message. I don't know who this is. Oh. Okay. Samantha Bee's Full Frontal's gone. Deesa Samiro's gone. More or less from their thing. So where is Late Night right now? And Kimmel's going to be around, I believe, until 2025 to the very most. I don't know. Right now, there's, even though we're getting Taylor Tomlinson hosting After Midnight over there on CBS, we're still lacking women. Lily Singh lost her show. Z-Way's show was canceled. We're still lacking people of color. Lily Singh, Z-Way. Charlemagne, the God. There were other shows like Tuning Out the News, a show which I did submit a packet for. Very true. It was over the pandemic, when they were looking for colored writers. But we've seen a scale back in terms of Paramount. We're getting After Midnight, which is going to probably be cheap. And then there's also, again, Deesa Samiro and Z-Way were ended. NBC's Amber Ruffin show on Peacock, that came out swinging for a very long time, and then it went away. Then it came back for a couple of weeks, and then it went away. Then it came back on like a monthly trial for 3 months. The Problem with Jon Stewart only did like 6 or 7 episodes every season, but now that show ended because Jon Stewart wanted to criticize China, and Apple did not like that. Is there room for what I'm asking? Is there room for this genre to grow, to expand? Is there a point for it to expand? Are we in a world where late night really doesn't matter? I mean, there's people like me who watch late night regularly. I guess their jobs, and it is something that I grew up with. I think the Daily Show, late night, the Late Show, all this stuff should stick around for the most part because it is a good way to see comedy bits in places where, only SNL is kind of like the big thing. And that's only sometimes. Now people watch that stuff on YouTube. But you can have that, you can have whatever's on television work in concert with the internet stuff. That's why Fallon and that's why Corden did so well. It's because they took, and Corden especially, they took this hyper popular thing and medium, hyper popular medium, and they brought it to TV. I'm talking about internet stuff, and then they took it back to the internet. And then you can have, like, if your segment is good enough, like A Closer Look, like Colbert's Meanwhile, like a Fallon game, like a prank that Jimmy Kimmel does, or even like the long story that John Oliver does. If it's good enough, then it will find an audience. But you have to be willing to try and to make those mistakes. One of the bigger problems I have with late night is that while it's great to know that you're going to get 3 A Closer Looks a week, maybe we should spice things up. Maybe there should be room to spice things up and to make more mistakes. Budgets are a big thing. There's not that much money going to but look at Conan. There was never a lot of money going his way. He only had the Tonight Show for 6 months, but between late night and Conan on TBS, they didn't have a lot of stuff to work with, except for when, he goes to Comic-Con or he's traveling. Then there's SNL's gearing up for this 50th anniversary, which is coming up in 2025, I believe, right? Yeah. Is SNL late night? I guess it is, but it feels like more sketch. Who would replace Lorne Michaels? I don't think that's a discussion right now. I don't think that should be a discussion right now. I think that's a last minute thing. Like a lot of SNL stuff, it's a last minute thing. But can late night become a better version of what it is in a time where they're not going to have a lot of money and they're competing with internet stuff? Because no one's staying up late and going, I have to see Jon Hamm on Jimmy Kimmel Live or on Tonight Show. It just has to be part of the conversation. Look at John Oliver. You can say that because Last Week Tonight only has 1 episode a week and they only follow one story and it's like well researched, then that's why it does so well. But I think, Last Week Tonight, they're in the same category, but it does a lot more different things than what Colbert does and what Fallon does and what The Daily Show does. And speaking of The Daily Show, it's high time that they get a plan together and they don't wait until January 14th to go, this is what is going to happen. They should have happened months ago. It did. Hasan Minhaj was supposed to take over, but, he ruined that for himself. I know. I feel that in order for late night to change, again, I think it would just have to embrace stuff that it's not. The What was fascinating about the original iteration of At Midnight was that it was a bunch of people. I mean, it came out at the perfect time. It was a bunch of people making jokes that were Twitter-esque for 20 or 22 minutes. And sometimes there were themed episodes, sometimes there weren't, and the points didn't matter, and it was just great. It was just great fun. And yeah, the jokes are written ahead of time. Who cares? But it was fun to see Ron Funches and Paul Scheer and I'll name a woman, Kate Micucci, just all up there doing jokes. And that was it. And that was the whole thing. I think a good starting point would be for, I know broadcast networks are ailing. I know those parent companies are ailing when it comes to money and advertisers and all this stuff. Let's not get caught up and bogged down in let's say this. You're business people. You can't do what Colbert or what Kimmel does. You're business people. Business people should not have a hand in what goes down. So I'll say this. Now that I don't work there anymore, I can say this. But at CNN, the boots on the ground were above the executive producers, above the show directors, were the people, like the programming people, like the programming directors, all that stuff. And those people would come in and they would constantly be on the phone with someone from New York going, you have to go to break. We've been airing breaking news for the past 2 hours, but you have to go to break. They will be beholden to money and to someone who is not in there doing the fight, fighting the good fight. They were often the ones in charge of the money. And yeah, you have to have that business sense, but at some point, it's nice to go a little bit off the rails. When, like, I'll go back to that same, it's not an analogy, it's an example, because it happened almost every single week, every single day, almost every single day at CNN. When there's breaking news, like there's a war or something, or there's, God forbid, a shooting, and then they don't go to break or let's go to fires, but they don't go to break for, 2 hours or so, or 40 minutes or an hour, however long, because you need a break like every 17 or 13 minutes or something like that. It was fascinating to see especially on live television, the anchors work. And then, as much as I dislike the producers, because I do, but like to see the producers work. But it was like fascinating to see the anchors work and then like lead a conversation for 2.5 hours by only getting information from their ear, or because someone printed out something, which is still a thing, I guess, or put in the prompter. And so if you can attribute that to late night and allow them to break from traditional things, like when Jimmy Kimmel goes to Brooklyn, yeah, they're still doing the same format of the show, but it's in a different place and it's fun and it feels exciting and exotic. Or when Justin Bieber or someone from BTS or Megan Thee Stallion sits in with Jimmy Fallon for a week straight for 4 or 5 episodes, and they're the guest every night or performing every night or co-hosting every night. That's fun. Mary-Kate and Ashley both hosted SNL an episode. They both hosted an episode. I want to see that again. I think it would be so fun if at the height of Parks and Rec, they just had an episode hosted by the cast of Parks and Rec. And I don't mean like everybody. I mean like if it was Adam, Amy, Aziz, Rashida, and Nick Offerman. If it was those 5 people, because Chris Pratt wasn't the biggest yet. But then they also had the entire cast there. So they had Jim O'Heir, Retta, Chris Pratt, and Aubrey Plaza. but they just and not everybody was in every sketch. They just like popped in. You know, oh, it's Amy Poehler and Aziz. Oh, it's Rashida and Chris. That would have been fantastic. But if we can break convention, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. We've done that. That's why Conan going abroad that first time, and then the second time, or Andy traveling. That's why it worked, because it was so fun and funny. That's why Letterman, on those episodes where things went haywire, when he sends someone to go downstairs to buy a pizza, that's why it's because it's different, and it's enchanting, and it's magic. All right, I've ranted and raved enough. Listen, if you like what you heard here, and you want to see other things, go to YouTube. Go to cpluscomedy.com, where I talk to famous people. Just did Tony Shalhoub and Andy Breckman from Monk. You can also watch a video version of this show, as well as the other podcasts, on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. Other podcasts include the Constitutionalist Podcast, the business entertainment business news podcast, as well as LinkedIn Logs, which is the job podcast. This show's going to go on a little hiatus until Late Night comes back. So there's that. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at @C+Comedy, me, at Chad Black White. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends. And, go watch the interviews on YouTube. You can see video versions of those interviews over on youtube.com/C+Comedy. We got a lot of stuff cooking. News Time will be back. It's my own late night show. We'll see you soon. Bye.